All right, everybody, and welcome back. Thank you, Josh, for the explanation about the risk in decentralized financial systems. And there are a lot of risks, but there's also a lot of opportunities. So let's explore that together. So I actually want to build on top of a little bit of the risk, but also, of course, opportunities, right? Because yes, there's a lot of risk because there's a lot of scams and there's a lot of hype. So in order when you want to invest in something, you need to understand the token economic systems. Also, when you want to build something with Morales or something like that, you need to understand if you want to release a token, how and why and what are you going to do, why are you going to use a token, right? Actually, I'm in the opinion that many protocols that are live now, they don't need a token and they're probably better off without a token and actually is going more of a traditional VC route. And a lot of protocols that went the VC routes should get a token. So, this is a very young space and there's still a lot to learn. And we're going to give you an introduction about how to analyze different token models and how to build them yourselves. This is not a fundamental analysis section. So we're not going to look at the total supply or the trading volume and all that stuff. That is something you can better do in a trading video. Okay, let's get started. I'm excited. Let's do it. Okay, we're going to look at the digital financial stack. We're going to look at token economics, introductory. We're going to look at the curve wars. This is a good study case of how a good token economic and game theoretical model could work. And we're going to look at some more risks where you need to watch out for when you buy, sell tokens, or also when you design tokens yourself. All right, so let's take a look at the digital financial stack. The digital financial stack comprises of different layers, right? So we have a settlement layer. The settlement layer could be viewed as Bitcoin, Ethereum, Phantom, Solana, Polygon, Arbitrum. Layer 2s are also settlement layers with another layer 1. So this is basically a settlement layer, and there's a certain thing to say about this because if you look in the top 10 number of tokens, it's mostly settlement layers like Bitcoin or Ethereum. Why is that the case? Because the settlement layer basically settles and observes all the value. This is where you want to be. Then you have application aggregation layers that also have value. Mostly application aggregation layers are much more riskier to invest in, and then also aggregation layers. Also, if you're a builder, to build a settlement layer, it's very complex. Probably not going to do it, but it's probably good to build an aggregation layer and then an application layer, etc., etc. So it's an interesting approach. As an investment approach, I would say go from the bottom to up. But if you're a builder, if you want to build something cool with Morales, whatever, and if you want to build a token into that, you probably want to build an application or aggregation layer. All right, so as I said, the value in these tokens always triples down to the layer 1. That's why layer 1s are the most valuable. Then you have, in any decentralized financial system, you have money markets. It's MakerDAO or RAI or any other markets on any other blockchain. Then we get lending and borrowing rates like Aave or Compound, etc. And then we have applications like Uniswap or other AMM models like Curve, etc. And then we have aggregation layers like 1inch or Convex that are again built on top of these layers. This went very fast, but I'm, Josh and me, we will explain later more what these applications are and how to use them. Just that you understand that all these applications, they belong somewhere in the digital financial stack. And if you want to invest in them, understand where these applications sit in the stack and what they do. Okay, let's look deeper. So how do I analyze tokens? Again, there's an introductory course, more links down below. What I use the economic design framework when I actually design my own systems and tokens. I look at, what kind of token design I'm going to use, what mechanism, and what kind of market design. In Bitcoin, one of the most elegant design systems, of course, we have an elegant design of a token policy. We can see there is an inflation schedule, there's an inflation rate, and there's a monetary base. That's Bitcoin. And then the consensus, the mechanism design is that there is proof of work, that there is miners that validate blocks, and they then get part of the inflation because they give in return, they give security. And the market builds around this layer because it's a trustless, peer-to-peer money that we never had in the world. And Bitcoin was the first mover, of course. This worked. well, if you now start a new Bitcoin, you could say the market design is probably something you need to think about, because not, how Bitcoin evolved. It's probably hard to model that, but interesting nevertheless. Okay, let's take a look at Ethereum, also another layer 1, right? Ethereum's token design is actually inflationary. So Ethereum doesn't have a hard cap like we saw in Bitcoin. In Bitcoin, there's 21 million coins. In Ethereum, it kind of always keeps inflating. Ethereum is now proof of work, but will move to proof of stake, and Ethereum is built for financial applications and has a different use case. The mechanism design of Ethereum is also constantly changing, but kind of always it was predicted that we would move to proof of stake and that we will also have a burning of fees in that. So a lot of things that are now happening in Ethereum, if you would really read all the documents, if you would have done good token economic research, you would actually not be surprised about EIP 1159, where Ethereum is burning tokens and Ethereum turning into ultrasound money. What does this mean? So it means that Ethereum now burns a part of their transaction fees, and that part of the transaction fees is then burned, taken out of circulation, making it so that instead of an inflationary supply, Ethereum will have a deflationary supply. And again, that is basically the first time we have hard money that is deflationary. Imagine if that, imagine what we can build on top of that again. And then, we can build a lot of new applications, aggregations, etc., etc. And also the market design, well, it kind of evolves by itself. There's DeFi applications that use Ethereum as a base money layer, etc., etc. All right, now let's look at an application layer and basically at a utility token. Well, the token design, the monetary policy is also capped. So there's a capped supply of the uni tokens. Uniswap is basically a protocol. It creates a token to activate a mechanism called governance, and with this governance, the token holders that hold the token, that buy it, again, market design, like they can buy the token or they distribute the token to an airdrop, as you guys know. And basically what you can do, you can vote on Uniswap to let them activate the fee switch. The fee switch is now still off, so Uniswap your token is kind of worthless right now, but still a lot of speculation and a lot of hope for the future is built into this token, which is also part of a token design, I would say. So that is Uniswap. Very interesting, nevertheless. Now let's take it up a notch, everybody. Let's take it to the next level, and let's go a little bit to the edges of what we want to explore. Again, if you want to go deeper, links are down below, and I would love to discuss these things more in depth in the forum. Okay, Curve Finance is one of the main layers in decentralized financial systems. The whole yield farming thing is built on top of Compound and Curve Finance. If Curve Finance and Compound were not existing, we might have to wait another 2-3 years before we invented yield farming and things what we're doing now in decentralized financial systems, right? So how is Curve actually designed before we go deeper into what the history of Curve? So the token design it's also an inflationary supply. So Curve doesn't have a cap supply. It always keeps inflating, actually for the coming 300 years. So Curve keeps inflating for the coming 300 years with an inflation schedule. Okay. But the token, the mechanism for the token, it's used so that you can actually take the token and you vote on which pools get the future inflation of the CRV tokens. Okay. Also, when you stake and vote a token, you will also get part of the revenue, right? So where's the revenue coming from? Well, the revenue for Curve Finance comes from liquidity pools. And why does Curve have liquidity pools? Because Curve has the most efficient automated market making protocol for more stable coins in the market as of today. They're also launching a competing protocol upgrade that competes with Uniswap version 3. So it's trying to really corner the complete automated market making market. It's doing a very good job at that, and especially the token design for Curve is much more efficient and well thought through than the token design for Uniswap, for example. It's much more clear what's going to happen. We can see that playing out. Yeah, and the market design, basically Curve is being distributed to users of the protocol and to stakers. So there's a continuous inflation where Curve constantly kind of changes hands. Well, you could say like, well, that's a race to the bottom, right? Well, not really. Because if you want to also use this more efficient automated market making protocol, well, then you need to use Curve. So if you stake your CRV tokens, you will get part of the inflation as a protocol. So it makes sense as a protocol to buy it. As a user, I would say you just want to stake your stablecoins. You get the CRV tokens, and it's best to hold the CRV tokens and to then restake them and get extra yields. That's my 2 cents of that. Okay, so we talked about basics and the introduction course about token economics. All right, now let's talk about the CRV wars. Let's talk about a practical implementation of a token economic design model for Curve finance. And this is a very interesting one too. And if you understand the Curve wars, you will understand everything what yield farming is about. You will understand why there is 500, 600% like APIs and gains, etc. It will become all clear. This is a fundamental lesson in token economics, which will help you determine which farms or which pools you actually want to maybe provide liquidity to, and where you want to help a system become potentially bigger. All right, let's take a look at the CRV wars, right? So what I always do when I invest in a liquidity pool, etc., I always think to myself, and I did this with Curve, right? So you invest in a liquidity pool, you actually keep the tokens, you don't sell them, because you think, okay, if the protocol survives, yes, there is an inflationary supply now, but if the protocol survives and it keeps on increasing their volume, then the token is actually undervalued. The same thing goes for a lot of different protocols. There are some protocols that give you some really high yield, etc. If these protocols actually do things and do things well, again, theoretically, then the tokens are worth something. If they don't do anything good, then it's worth nothing. All right, let's take a look. CRV wars. Okay, what's happening? So we know about Curve, though. Most people probably heard about it, right? And most people also heard about Yearn Finance, DeFi tokens built by Andre Cronje, one of the first fair-launched yield aggregating protocols. And I don't think that many people actually know that Curve, like Yearn Finance, is actually built on top of Curve Finance. So Andre Cronje worked very closely with the Curve team to make Yearn Finance into a thing. And the simplest way what Yearn Finance does, it later actually expanded into more other like yield options and yield opportunities. The most basic thing that it does is it basically makes it easy for you as a liquidity provider to do lazy yield providing to Curve Finance instead of you having to understand the full protocol. So, you know, if you don't have the time to study Curve Finance and all its inner workings, and also unfortunately have the capital needed to invest in Curve Finance because of the gas fees are a little bit higher, and you need to boost your yield. That's a little bit more of an advanced topic to get into, but you need to boost your yield in order to get the highest API on your liquidity. Yearn Finance does all this for you. It's literally one click. You connect your wallet, you go to Yearn Finance, you connect your wallet, you inject your stable coins, and you get a stable and nice return on your liquidity provisioning. What's important to understand, this liquidity provisioning doesn't come from nowhere. You're actually helping a system grow bigger, and you're providing liquidity to a market. So you're doing actually something good, right? And Yearn Finance helps you to do it in a more efficient way. And they do this by actually having your CRV tokens and having a portion of the CRV tokens that they lock up. And they do that for you, right? And they take a fee for that. So Yearn Finance has a big treasury and very smart programmers that build a protocol around Curve where you just put your stablecoins in, they boost it for you, and they then again swap between all these stablecoins. So instead of only locking Curve, they actually do a little bit more. They boost your Curve, etc. And they also swap between different meta pools. That's something we can go talk about in the forum if you want to learn more about Yearn Finance. So where did the war between Yearn Finance and Convex Finance started? Well, it went as follows. There's a locking, so you need to lock your CFV tokens to get the highest amount of boost in your Curve Finance farms, right? But what did Convex actually do? It's not a vampire attack, but it kind of just offered a higher yield because they bought actually a little bit more Curve tokens off the market, and they also injected their own token into the market. So you have the Convex token and the Curve token that they now drop to you. So you get part of the Convex Finance protocol, and you get boosted Curve yields. Yearn Finance actually did the same, but because Andre wanted to do a fair launch, he distributed, but it was distributed, I think, in 3 days because so many people jumped onto it and the yield was pretty high, so the tokens were distributed very, very quickly. Convex does it in a bit smarter way. They distribute it to more people, so they still have this liquidity incentives. And now what's happening is that actually Yearn Finance cannot buy enough Curve tokens because Convex Finance is buying up all the Curve tokens. What this in theory means is that's why the CFV token spiked up a couple of times. But because CFV tokens also still have a high inflation rate, the token price still is kind of low. So I would not recommend buying it, but I would recommend understanding the game theory behind these wars between Convex Finance and Yearn Finance over a protocol that they're working with, Curve Finance. Okay, so I hope now we understand a little bit what the Curve wars are and what it means and how it works. So as you see, like your liquidity in DeFi is really something valuable. It's a valuable resource that you have and that you can use. And this is so weird to us. It's so weird to us that, basically our bank deposits are something useful. We've been sitting on it. We never got paid for it, but actually now we do. We do get paid for it, and we can gain money from it, right? So that is basically what Curve Finance does. All right, now let's take a look at some risks, right? So there's never a free lunch, right? We just looked at the CRV Curve game theory and the CRV Curve token economic models, right? So there's no free lunch because, let's take a look at another protocol called Anchor, built on Terra, which I also really like. It's very interesting, but what we need to understand is what they're actually giving us here, right? They're being, I think, a little bit risky. Nevertheless, it's an experiment, so let's see how it plays out. I would like to, I make this video now. I say it's very risky, but let's see how it turns out. I still also hold some Terra and some Anchor. I'm very interested and passionate about everything, but what I found a little bit dangerous is that right now you basically get paid tokens to actually borrow money. So they're propping up their statistics, they're propping up their yield by actually having people to be over leveraged, to having people borrow money. And I think that's a little bit dangerous, and that's actually also mimicking the centralized financial system that we have today. And they're also, remember in 2008, they were giving people money to buy a house, borrow money, yay. And that's what they're doing at Anchor as well. So word of caution, when you invest in something or when you build something, be extra careful and be sure to do your research and to use the token economic framework where you can. All right, I would don't be a lurker in the dark, and let's discuss it in the forum. Do you agree or disagree with me? Do you want to see maybe a more in-depth study or a more in-depth lecture about token economics? I will be happy to do that for you guys, and I would love to hear your views about the Curve wars and maybe some other cool stories that you found. Right now we have also some other really cool stories that we can discuss later about Magic Internet Money or Ohm. And there is a lot of things happening there as well. Okay, guys. See you in the next video, and thank you very much.